Welcome back. Today we are diving into a really clever new way of thinking about AI agents. See, it's not always about just raw power or speed. Sometimes it's about teaching them a classic executive skill, the art of delegation.
So let's just start with this one question. We usually think of AI as this all-powerful thing that does everything itself, right? But what if it didn't have to? What if a really smart AI could just delegate the busy work? Hand off all the tedious, data-heavy tasks and just pop back in to review the final results. It's a shift in thinking that is a total game changer.
And at the heart of all this is a fundamental problem, an AI's dilemma, if you will. To be truly useful, these AI models need to chew through enormous amounts of real-world data. We're talking documents, spreadsheets, you name it. But here's the catch. Their capacity to actually process all that info, what we call their context window, is limited. And it's expensive. Every single piece of data costs something.
To really get our heads around this, let's use a little metaphor. Imagine your top-of-the-line AI is like a brilliant but very, very expensive executive. Their time, their attention, that's the company's most valuable asset. And in the AI world, that precious resource is measured in something called tokens.
So what's a token? Well, you can think of it like a piece of a word, kind of the basic building block of information for a language model. The key thing to remember is that everything the AI looks at, from your first question to all the data it gets back, costs tokens. And trust me, those costs add up fast.
So the old way of doing things, the traditional way, is when an AI uses a tool, say to look up a customer in her database, it gets all the raw data dumped right back on its plate. This is like telling our star executive to personally go to the filing cabinet, pull out a 100-page report, and read every single line just to find one phone number. I mean, it gets the job done, but it's just incredibly inefficient.
And this problem gets way, way worse with more complex tasks, when you have to chain multiple tools together, like look up a user, then find their usage data, then create a support ticket. The AI has to slog through huge chunks of data at every single step. The token cost just skyrockets. It becomes a massive bottleneck. Okay, so what's the alternative? Well, instead of being a micromanager who has to read every email, the AI learns to delegate. It becomes a true manager. And you're about to see how this simple idea creates a much, much more efficient system. This new method is called code execution. And here's the core idea. Instead of doing the work itself, the AI's main job is to create the plan. It looks at what you want, and it writes a short little script, a set of instructions, to make it happen. The AI basically goes from being the worker to being the planner. So here's a quick look at how it actually works. First, the AI gets access to a bunch of tools, but it sees them as simple code modules. Then, it writes a script using these modules to do what you asked. That script then runs in a totally separate, secure environment. We call it a sandbox. And this is the magic part. Only a tiny little summary of the result gets sent back to the AI. The engineers behind this have a great way of describing this whole process. They talk about the AI being awake versus napping. See, the really expensive part is when the AI is awake and thinking. So the goal is to let it nap as much as humanly, or I guess artificially, possible. The whole thing really breaks down into 4 simple steps. The AI wakes up, it delegates the work, it takes a nap, and then it wakes back up just to give you the final answer. Let's walk through each one of those. So in step 1, the AI is fully awake. This is prime time. It's using its expensive brain power and burning through its tokens to really understand your requests and figure out a plan using the tools it has. This is our executive mapping out a new project. Then comes the delegation. The AI's output here isn't the answer itself. No, it's a clear set of instructions written in code. This is our executive handing over a detailed project plan to their team, saying, "Go make this happen." And now for the absolutely brilliant part, the nap phase. The AI is idle. It's off the clock. It's not costing us a single token. Meanwhile, that little script it wrote is running in the background, handled by a much cheaper system. This is where all the heavy lifting happens, calling APIs, crunching big data, chaining tools together, all while our expensive executive is taking a break. Finally, the AI wakes up, but it doesn't need to see all the messy, behind-the-scenes work. It just gets a clean, simple summary. Something like, "Hey, tasks done. Found 5 leads, save them to a CSV file." And with that tiny little update, it can formulate a perfect natural language response for you.
So we've gone through the process. But what are the real, tangible benefits here? I'm not exaggerating when I say this approach is a total game changer, and the advantages go way beyond just saving a little money.
Let's just start with the headline number. For complex tasks that use multiple tools, this method can slash your token usage by up to 98%. No, that's not a typo, 98%. Just let that sink in. To put that in perspective, here's a real-world example from the researchers at Anthropic. They had a task that used to cost a whopping 150,000 tokens using the old method. With code execution, it costs only about 2,000 tokens. This makes AI applications that were just way too expensive before suddenly totally viable. But the benefits go way beyond cost. We're also talking about major gains in security and privacy. Because all that intermediate data crunching happens inside the sandbox, you can make sure that sensitive information, personal data for example, never even touches the main AI model. It gives you incredibly precise control.
This approach also helps the AI learn and get better over time. That sandbox can actually save files, which gives the AI a kind of memory, right? It can pick up a task right where it left off. Plus, it can save useful little bits of code as skills, basically building its own library of reusable functions to solve future problems even faster.
And for the engineers in the audience, this one is huge. Predictability. Instead of trying to debug the mysterious black box reasoning of an AI, the model vibes, you have actual code. You can read it, you can replay it, you can check the logs and know exactly what the agent did and why it did it. It's a lifesaver.
Okay, so this all sounds amazing. But of course, a technique this powerful has its trade-offs. So let's look at the fine print and talk a little bit about what this all means for the future of AI agents.
So let's be honest. The old way, direct tool calls, that's definitely simpler to set up. But code execution wins on almost every other front. It's wildly more efficient, it's way more capable, and it gives you so much more control. That extra complexity of setting up a secure sandbox, it's often a tiny price to pay for building these incredibly powerful software-like AI agents.
And this all brings us to one final, really thought-provoking question. When we give an AI the power to not just use tools, but to write, save, and reuse its own code, are we just building a better assistant? Or are we, maybe, building the very first autonomous software developers? It's a question that really changes how you think about the future of work and the future of AI itself.